morning. It's Monday, August 8th. And as usual, yesterday morning I was searching for a topic to rant about. And I came across this article. Actually, it was more like a blurb than an article. About Harvard University. And it talked about their endowments and stuff. And then I did a little background research, and I'll get back to the endowments and stuff in a minute. It turns out that in the Ivy League, no athletic scholarships are given out, and no scholarships based upon scholarship are given out. Everybody has to pay, but they don't all have to pay, because at Harvard at least, if your family's income is less than $75,000, you pay nothing to go to the school if you're accepted. And for families who earn more than $150,000, they usually have to pay the full tuition, but there can be exceptions. And so while I thought it would be expensive to go to Harvard, for 90% of the American families, Harvard is actually cheaper than a public university. And that's because of the structure that they have put on family income and education. So if the average income in this country is around $60,000 a family, then you can go to Harvard and pay nothing, which was an astounding fact when I recognized that. Now, let me explain why I think Harvard can do this. We'll do a little math. There are 6,700 students at Harvard in the undergraduate class, and tuition for 1 year is a little over $50,000. And that's cheap compared to some of the other schools where the tuition is $70,000. Now Harvard, if all 6,700 undergraduates were paying tuition, they would collect $335 million each year in tuition. And their current endowment contains $37 billion. So the collected tuition every year is about 1% of the endowment. So they could easily afford to not charge any tuition because they have this endowment. And this endowment continues to grow at about 5% a year. So every single year this endowment grows 5%. And annual tuition collected is 1%, so they could go 5 years on 1 year's increase in their endowments. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. So there's no need for Harvard to really charge the exorbitant amounts that other universities are getting. The number of students attending Harvard right now, the 6,700 that I mentioned, are only the undergraduates. Harvard has many postgraduate areas where they're making other kinds of money. But even so, a foreign student pays the full freight. They get no discounts. And there are over 1,200 foreign undergraduate students. So you see, actually, when you look at the numbers, there's really only about 5,500 students in the undergraduate class who fall into any category where they could possibly receive some tuition relief. Basically, this discussion is strictly about Harvard College, but there are 10 other schools that exist in Harvard, and they're making money off of all of those. They have a divinity school, a design school, a continuing education school, a School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, the Kennedy School, the Law School, the Radcliffe Institute. All of those are part of the Harvard campus. And they have an art and science museums. So this is a very diverse place. And unfortunately, many people will look at this school and say, this is such a top school, my kid can't go there. I can't afford that kind of tuition, right? And if they don't do their research, they're missing a golden opportunity, because Harvard is quite generous when you look at the whole picture. And yes, they have $37 billion, and it doesn't seem like they're spending it. But that's okay, because they need a cushion to survive in the world of higher education. Harvard is by far the wealthiest school. But the second place school will surprise you. It's the University of Texas. And then you have Yale University and Stanford University and Princeton University in that order. And the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is not a bad place to go either. And Notre Dame and Northwestern University and Columbia University right here in New York has about a quarter of what Harvard has, but that's still almost $15 billion. So there are plenty of schools in this country that have plenty of money, and tuition could be managed much better at some of these high-ranking schools. So I don't know what their rules and regulations are, but I think that every single parent has an obligation to do their homework. And if you're looking at a school, you should find out if they have a deal like Harvard has. Because I imagine that all the Ivy League schools would be similar to what Harvard has. So I took a look at the deal that Dartmouth has. Their basic tuition is $76,000 a year. But at their different income levels, you can go for as little as $6,000 a year. And so the average tuition at Dartmouth is about $24,000, not the $76,000 that they mentioned, because they take in, based upon the stats that I saw, many lower income families. Now I'm sure that in order to get into Dartmouth, you have to have a certain amount of smarts. So bottom line, like everything else that has to get done in the world, if you want to get the best possible deal, you need to do your research. I leave you with that this morning. It was a very interesting experience checking out these schools. See you tomorrow. Bye.